Hi everyone, welcome back to the class. Today we're going to use this PNG file to make a particle reveal. If you guys have your own logo that you want to use it, you guys can go ahead and use that file. Just make sure it's PNG. Let's get started. First thing first, we want to create a composition. We'll call this logo reveal. And same width and height, 1280 by 720. Pixel aspect ratio, 30 frames per second. And we're gonna have 10 seconds, which is going to be the 1000 duration, right? Let's go ahead and add the logo. We'll notice it's way too big, so I'm going to hit S on the keyboard, scale this thing down. Right click on this layer, I'll say pre-compose. I want to make sure I want to move all attributes. That way we can also get width and height ratio same as the composition. We'll go to the effects and preset and call it CC ball action. Double click on that. Change the rotation axis from X axis to Z axis. And from this scatter 0, what we want to do is we want this to be exploded and then come back as a one single shape. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put 200 with the scatter, keyframe it. Come to roughly about 1.5 seconds, we'll say 0. We want to do the same thing for the twist angle, but we want to make sure, and 270, and ends at the same timeline. So we're gonna hit U. That will bring us where the keyframe is, so overlap it and change back to 0. So 270 and then change back to 0. That's where we're at. Next thing is, notice how all those spheres that we have it here is fairly big, and we don't really get to see what these letters are standing out for. So smaller the grid spacing, more particles there's going to be. So what we're going to do is we also want to change that. Keyframe the grid space, come to where the keyframe ends, and we're just going to say 0. And you will notice how this particle is forming. This big particle is forming, and whoop, nice. I'm gonna hit U twice again. Select all the keyframe on the left hand side, right click, keyframe assistant, and easy ease out. Select everything on the right hand side and easy ease in. That will bring us a bit more of the animatic look. We do want to change a little bit, so we're gonna select everything, open the graph editor, and change that to the value graph. And we want to say, you know what, I think this is really cool, but select everything on the right hand side of this point. That will give us this handle as well, and I just want to expand it. This one's fine. These two is for the twist angle and the scatter. The one thing that matters the most is going to be the scatter amount, so we just want to whoop, whoop. So the animation now is going to be like whoop. This jittering move is happening. That's because our grid spacing is going down. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to change that so that it actually starts to come down at the roughly about midpoint where animation is actually happening. So I'll change that to there. And then finally we're going to add some expression to instability states. Let's go to the instability states. Hold down the Alt if you're using Mac. If you're using if you're using Windows. If you're using Mac, it's going to be Option. And click on it, it will open up the expression panel. We're gonna say wiggle and use the parenthesis, say 0.5 and 200. Let's take it out. Let's see how it looks. Nice. So we added a little bit more of the movements in between. And as it ends, we want to make sure as it ends, it becomes this image. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this one, paste it over here, click and drag it, and it right there. And this one too, we're going to click and drag it, and it right there. That's a spacebar. So it's going to form and then translate into this Burger King. Because otherwise we're going to have this small mosaic looking particles. So what we basically did was replace that as soon as the particle movement ends with the actual image file. Nice, nice. Okay. Let's go to layer new, solid. We'll call this one background. Bring this one all the way at the bottom. We're gonna apply the gradient map. And then we're gonna say black. We want to change that to a little bit brighter color. You know what? I'll pick the color from the logo. You don't have to, you can just go with your own color and blend with original. It's getting too muddy, so I'll just keep it to as it is. But I'll just bring this yellow a little bit closer, blue to a little bit closer. Nice. So we have some sort of an image looking like this. Alright, so next, what we have to do is select both layer, holding down shift, right click, pre-compose once more. You don't really have to name it. So this one now we can add a little bit more of the structure to it. Alright. Let's go to the effects and preset, and we're gonna say turbulent displays. As you can see, it's very cuckoo once we have these particles like that. The size, we are going to knock it down to 50 because that's a little bit too high. Amount, I think size 15 should be fine because 50 was just way overkill as well. Amount, we're gonna say 30, keyframe the amount, roughly about where it ends, we're just gonna say 0. So that it can end naturally. Okay, and then on top of it, we're gonna say CC force motion blur. There you go. Oops, let's select this layer. This will help us to create this motion blur. Blur angle, sharpness, that default number should be fine. Shutter angle, let's just change that to, let's just increase that to 70 so that we can get a little bit more of those motion blur. Just be aware, adding this one will slow down your computer a lot. So if it's just way too slow, set the full to quarter in terms of the preview and work on it. Let's just do some preview real quick. Nice. I think this is cool so far. And we're gonna say glow. I'm gonna add the glow. Okay, that's a little bit too much. There you go. Threshold. That was before and after. We're kind of losing intensity. We're gonna say 0.5. Radius like 5. threshold, I'm just gonna say like 80. And still it's creating that halo around it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say intensity 0, 1. Okay, that's now bare minimum. I'll say 5 for the radius. Number might vary depending on what kind of background color that you have it, but right now mine is just sticking out way too much, so I have to tweak those numbers according to what I have it. Threshold, I think I'll have to increase a little bit, but still I think 80 probably is going to be the best option. Okay, now let's take a look. Not bad. I mean, even without the glow looks fine too. Glow just adds a little bit of the radial strokes right around it. Alright. Ultimately, let's add the camera lens blur. There you go. I want to make sure we end it right there. There you go. So that will create this blur. We're gonna keyframe the blur. Roughly about this particle fades out. Yeah, 7 looks good, and as it comes in, we'll say 0. That's our keyframe. Before we move on to anything, let's just right click keyframe assistant and ease in and out those. And again, it's going to slow down the computer, so to make sure you set the preview color to quarter if you want to. Alright. Awesome, this looks good. Cool. Now what we can even do is honestly this will slow down a little bit too, but we'll add the CC light sweep. This feature, as you can see, it's this kind of the light setting that we can actually use it and utilize it. We're not gonna use it starting from the beginning. We're gonna use it as soon as this comes in into one single shape, and say I'm gonna move that out of this frame. Keyframe the center, move those timeline a little bit, and sweep it. Just make sure you pull it outside of this composition. Let's hit U on the keyboard again, so we can bring up CC light sweep. Select left one, ease out, right one, ease in, and just make sure this light sweep is not bothering the other particles. Oops. Gotta do it again. Yep, I think that light sweep isn't interfering the other ones, so that one should be fine. Alright, let's see from the beginning. I think the light sweep is a little bit too fast, so what I'm just gonna do is just expand it a little and see how it ends. Yeah, not bad. We'll start it a little bit early too. There you go. Nice. I think it has its own unique animation now. Okay, I think that's a pretty good timing. Alright. So if you guys have up until here, you guys can go ahead and render it. You don't really have to use all this 10-second duration. So what you can do is right after it ends, you can hit N on your keyboard. That will end the marking. ultimately, let's say if you make a mistake by clicking on the different keystrokes, let's say B. B is the beginning of this workspace area. Ultimately, you can move it around or extend it. The beginning, always otherwise, it should just stay in the beginning of the timeline. Ending is something that we just want to like switch around. So B and N is a shortcut for that. I think 2.5 seconds for at least the one that I just worked on. It's fine for that. So end it right there. What I can even do is right click on this work area, trim composition to work area. So I no longer have 10-second duration. I have 2 seconds and 15 frames of duration. Alright, so let's go ahead and render this file, and if you guys have any other question, of course, please ask me through the email, which I can reply a lot faster. I will try to reply back as soon as possible, but give it roughly about 20 to 30 minutes, because I'm not always on the phone or the computer. So yep, have fun, and I'll see you guys in the next class. Take care.